Salut à tous and welcome back to Lingoni French. It's a pleasure to teach you again today. The topic of the day will be the second part of my lesson on pronominal verbs. We had a first part on pronominal verbs in which we talked about them. What is a pronominal verb? Are there different families, categories of pronominal verbs? How can we distinguish them and things like that? So that was the first part. And we talked about reflexive verbs, verbes réciproques, verbs that were pronominal by nature. And I think there was a fourth family that I can think of now. And then by the end of that lesson, I told you, I guess this topic, like pronominal verbs, would deserve a second part in which I would talk about pronominal verbs in passé composé, because passé composé is always bringing new things to the things we thought we knew. And again, it's happening. So I was not too sure how to actually structure the lesson without forgetting things, and I was not too sure. And then I found a couple of questions, yeah, actually two questions on the YouTube comments that helped me a lot. I was like, yeah, these are actually the questions you should ask, very relevant. That's what I need to answer. So I took these two questions and I answered them. That's a big part of my lesson. And in the first part of this lesson, I just wanted to give you the basic things you would expect about pronominal and passé composé. The first thing is that you will have to use the auxiliary être. Like if you take the verb se lever, what you would have to remember is actually two things. First, that you will need your subject. Je, tu, il, nous, vous, il, elle. And then, because it's pronominal, the second pronoun, the reflexive one. Je, me. Okay. And then, because it's pronominal, I will need to remember to use the auxiliary être. Je me suis, and then past participle, lever. And then, if you remember a little bit your lesson on passé composé and what's happening when I conjugate with auxiliary être, maybe you're also thinking, and probably if I say je me suis levé and je is Alicia, then levé is e. Now I need to know if it's feminine, masculine, plural. And this participe passé, which is completely invariable with the auxiliary avoir, is no longer invariable when I use être. And you would be right. That would be the third thing then that you would have to remember. Both pronouns, je, me, tu, te, il, elle, on, se, nous, repetition, vous, repetition, il se, elle se. This is like the third very important thing. Do not forget one pronoun. They're not optional. The second thing would be to conjugate the auxiliary être in present simple. Je me suis, tu t'es, il sait, on sait, elle sait. Nous sommes, vous êtes, ils se sont, elles se sont. Et mon participe passé. Accordé avec mon sujet. Is that all? No. First question I found on YouTube. Hey, I have a question. Why do you write je me suis lavé? We assume it's a girl. Je me suis lavé. Et looks good. But then you write je me suis lavé les mains. Lavé et. What happened? Excellent question. So here we realize that we have a second rule to the rule, which is if you have a verb that can accept some kind of complément d'objet direct. Sounds complicated? It's not. It's just un complément that would answer the question what. In that case, je me suis lavé what? Les mains. So if now what the important part, the delight is on the fact that I wash my hands, then I don't care anymore if you're a girl or if you're a boy or if there are three of you washing your hands. All I know is that you guys are washing your hands. Hands is the important part. So when you have this complément d'objet direct, le participe passé is no longer bothering with agreeing with the subject. No longer. Je me suis lavé, full stop. Okay, so who got washed? Je, nous, elle, in singular, in plural, who knows? But je me suis lavé les mains, That's it. We have les mains, laver stays exactly the same. Et. And that would work with elle s'est coupée. So she cut herself, maybe cooking, but elle s'est coupée and I'm not adding any additional information. Elle s'est coupée. Et eux, yes. But, elle s'est coupée les cheveux, elle s'est coupée le doigt en cuisinant, elle s'est coupée les ongles, then that's it. Elle s'est coupée et, and then, le complément direct. First, excellent question. Clearing things up like crazy. And at the same time, confusing you, of course. But at least, now you know the reason for the confusion. Why do you write elles se sont embrassées et ES féminin pluriel, but you write elles se sont téléphonées et second rule. Because you're like, okay, but there is no complément d'objet direct, so what's happening here? In the first one, the verb is embrasser quelqu'un. Embrasser quelqu'un. Elles se sont embrassées, ES. Elles ont embrassé qui? Each other. But you say téléphoner à quelqu'un. That's it. It's no longer direct. C'est indirect. Parce que j'ai la préposition à. Téléphoner à quelqu'un. So in French, you don't say téléphoner quelqu'un. Tu as téléphoné qui? Non. Appeler quelqu'un. To call someone. Yes. But in French, you would say phone to someone. Sounds weird, but just so you get the idea. Donc, appeler quelqu'un, but téléphoner à quelqu'un. The fact that this verb goes with a preposition, then you cannot make the past participle agree with the subject. We have more, of course. Téléphoner is one. Parler à quelqu'un. Elles se sont parlé. This is a mistake. I don't know. Maybe I have a French speaker watching this video and is like, oh, really? Didn't know. Elles se sont parlé. Common mistake in French. Made by native French speakers. Elles se sont parlé. ES. Non, monsieur. Parler à quelqu'un. Elles se sont parlé. Et. Elles se sont téléphonées. Téléphonées à quelqu'un. Et. Elles se sont embrassées. ES. Why? Because embrasser quelqu'un. Saluer quelqu'un. Ils se sont salués. ES. Yes. I had some more. Voir quelqu'un. Yeah. So, elles se sont vues. ES. Voir quelqu'un. That's fine. Rencontrer quelqu'un. So, that would work too. But, téléphoner, parler. I didn't find many more, which is a shame, because I'm sure we have much more with a preposition. Téléphoner à quelqu'un. Parler à quelqu'un. Se confier, peut-être. Se confier à quelqu'un. Donc, elles se sont confiées et just because you have the preposition à. Yeah, and I think this one is way more complicated than the one before. The one before is like, oh, tricky. This one is like, man, I don't know. Imagine what I have to think, what we have to think, even for us. Elles se sont embrassées ES, elles se sont parlé ES. No. So we have to think a little bit. But really, these were like perfect questions to structure my lesson, like what you should know, basic things, but what is happening sometimes and kind of shattering the whole rules and norms we thought we knew about. And these are the two main things, I'd say. So yeah, not much more. I don't think there is a need to like complicate you more than that. You know enough, and that's how it works, and that's why that's why we had a second part, which I think like deserve to be dedicated to verbes pronominaux au passé composé. All you can do is like practicing and reading, because at some point seeing elles se sont parlé ES, if you've read already a couple of times elles se sont parlé et, you'd be like, oh, weird, I had never seen it written this way. And maybe it brings you back to the grammatical rule. Maybe. And otherwise, it's just practice. And to practice, what do you need? You need an amazing app. Do we have an amazing app? We do. It's lingoni.com. So if you'd like some extra practice, feel free and practice on lingoni.com. You'll find a lot of additional exclusive videos, PDF worksheets, podcasts, and interactive exercises. We even have a tool to practice pronunciation. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Not sure. And I see you very soon for a new one. À bientôt. Au revoir.